Hello and welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to do a recap of a German thriller and mystery film called Cut Off from 2018. But before we begin, beware of spoilers and enjoy the video. A violent storm blusters around the island of Heligoland and cuts off the island from the rest of the world. Linda, a 24-year-old cartoonist, is temporarily staying on the island. She is threatened by her ex-boyfriend Danny, who is stalking her. Once again in a situation where she feels like she needs to flee from him, she falls down an embankment while fleeing and comes across a corpse on the beach. At the same time, Professor Dr. Paul Herzfeld, a medical examiner working for the Federal Criminal Police Office, is engaged in an autopsy at the Charité University Hospital in Berlin. He finds a capsule in the head of a female corpse whose jaw is missing. The capsule contains a small slip of paper with the cell phone number of his 17-year-old daughter Hannah, whom he rarely sees since separating from her mother. He calls the number and has to find out that his daughter has been kidnapped. He is told to wait for more information, which he will get from a man called Eric. Mr. Herzfeld is advised not to call the police if he does not want to risk the life of his daughter. We see Hannah tied to a bed in a dark room with flickering lights. The door opens and a man enters the room while recording Hannah on a camera. Hannah begs her to let her go, but he keeps on filming her. The man's name was Jan Eric Sadler. Eric slowly unzips his pants and assaults Hannah on the bed while filming her. Meanwhile, Linda is standing next to the corpse, and the mobile phone of the dead man found in Heligoland rings. She takes out the corpse's phone and it is in a plastic bag. She unlocks the phone and sees 16 missed calls. Back at his office, Herzfeld listens to the call recording of Hannah's kidnap call. He tries to analyze the call to find any clues. He writes down some clues, including the name of the kidnapper, Eric. Herzfeld calls different people who were in contact with Hannah. He asks them if they know where Hannah is. No one knows about Hannah's whereabouts, so he directly calls Hannah's phone, hoping he might talk with Eric himself. Someone attends Herzfeld's call but does not say anything, so Herzfeld gets angry and starts threatening Eric and tells him that he has resources to find him and he will kill him if he touches his daughter. The person on the other end cuts the call. Herzfeld cools down and realizes the sensitivity of the situation. Herzfeld calls Hannah again and apologizes to Eric and asks him what he wants. But instead of Eric, Linda answers the call and talks to Herzfeld. Herzfeld asks her who she is and where Eric is. Linda introduces herself and tells Herzfeld that Eric is dead and his corpse is right in front of her. The corpse in front of Linda was wearing a shirt labeled Eric on the chest with black ink. She explains that he cannot come to Heligoland because of the storm. He tells Linda to search for Ender Muller, who is a friend of his and the caretaker in the local hospital. The two of them should bring the corpse to the autopsy room. At the same time, Mr. Herzfeld and his new trainee in golf Von Appen begin their journey to Cuxhaven in Von Appen's car. The trainee became rich by selling his website, which he had invented by the age of 14, but working in forensic medicine is not one of his strengths. During the ride, he urges Linda on the phone to examine the corpse she found on the beach. Linda, who is disgusted and a vegetarian, only approves of an external necropsy, which she performs following Herzfeld's instructions, while Ender tries to lighten the mood with jokes. However, when she finds a yellow object in the corpse's throat and is asked to cut the throat open, she resists the request. Back at Hannah, Eric leaves a box for her, and when she opens the box, she finds a noose, indicating that he will hang her once he is tired of her or done with her. Meanwhile, back in the autopsy room, Linda freaks out and runs away from the corpse. Herzfeld calls her and tells her how important it is for her to cut the corpse's throat. Linda tells him she is a human and she can't cut open another human's throat. She tells him she is not a freak like him who is deformed by his job. Herzfeld yells at her for not manning up but then apologizes to her. He asks her if she has any kids. Linda tells him she is only 24 years old. Of course, she doesn't. Herzfeld plays the dad card and asks her if she wants children. She tells him of course she does, but when she is old and is a famous comic artist. Herzfeld tells her his daughter is 17 years old and she is also fond of comic books. Linda sees where Herzfeld is taking the conversation, so he calls him a manipulative jerk before getting startled, thinking she saw her ex-boyfriend Danny. Herzfeld asks her if Danny is a problem. She tells him Danny is her biggest problem because he hurt her and abused her very badly. After talking to Herzfeld, Linda realizes that she completely forgot about Danny while she was helping Herzfeld, so she changes her mind. Linda and Ender perform an autopsy on the fake Eric corpse and find an object inside the body. The object turns out to be the plastic capsule of a Kinder Surprise and contains a photograph depicting the retired Judge Friedrich Toven who lives in Heligoland. According to Jens Marinek, she once passed a too lenient sentence on Sadler, who had raped Marinek's only daughter who was underage and later committed suicide because of Sadler. Herzfeld and Marinek were colleagues and friends at that time. Linda and Ender break into Tovin's house in Heligoland and find a woman's corpse there, which they also bring to the autopsy room. Herzfeld remembers the time when his colleague, Jens's daughter, was raped and kidnapped by Eric Salder. Eric performed the autopsy on Jens's daughter. During his daughter's autopsy, Jens walks in and demands to see his daughter. Herzfeld calms him down and takes him outside of the autopsy room. Herzfeld sympathizes with him and tells him not to look at his daughter's dead body because it can cause psychological problems for him. Jens asks her what the cause was of her daughter's death. Herzfeld tells him she hung herself up. Jens tells him the only reason she hung herself up was that the kidnapper made her do it. Jens tells her what Eric did to her daughter when he kidnapped her. He tells him Eric licked her entire body, and then constantly molested her, and then described to him how he will torture her. Herzfeld tells him he is well aware, and the court will keep that in mind when they punish him. Jens tells him the court is useless because they will convict Eric of rape, which means he will be out on the streets again after 5 years. Jens tries to convince Herzfeld to plant some evidence so Eric can be imprisoned for life or get a death sentence. Herzfeld disagrees with him and tells him if he does that, then it will be considered a criminal act and is highly unethical. Jens does not listen and tries to bribe Herzfeld to give a false testimony so that Sadler gets a tougher punishment, but he still does not help him. Meanwhile, Herzfeld and his intern have reached the secluded house of his colleague, Jens Marinek. There, next to a dead pig, they find evidence relating to the sadist Jan Eric Salder, the man who is holding Hannah captive. During the search for clues, Ingolf falls into a frozen lake near the house, though he is saved by Herzfeld. Back in the autopsy room, Ender wants to secure the electricity supply at the Heligoland clinic and comes back to the autopsy room, where Linda has locked herself, with a knife in his shoulder. A block of wood sticks out of Tovin's rectum. Herzfeld has seen equivalent images in a video. There are numbers on the wooden block, which Linda forwards via her phone. They are geo-coordinates that lead Herzfeld and his trainee into a forest. There, Herzfeld is overpowered by Marinek, who shoots himself after swallowing a memory chip. Herzfeld gets it out and sees a video on it showing the boss of a moving company, Philip Schwintowski. Not only Marinek's daughter Lily, but also Schwintowski's daughter Rebecca had been abducted by Sadler. In desperation, both of them committed suicide after being raped by him. Marinek and Schwintowski decided to take justice into their own hands. They arranged for Hannah's abduction because in their eyes Herzfeld, as part of the justice system, was also responsible for the death of their daughters. In the forest, Herzfeld deliberately causes a car accident to alarm a rescue helicopter via the car's automatic emergency call system. The helicopter takes Ingolf and him to Heligoland. When he arrives, he saves Linda and Ender, who had been attacked by Sadler, which left Ender severely injured. Herzfeld recognizes that the dead person found on the beach was Schwintowski. The reference to Alcatraz leads the group to a bunker system under the lighthouse of Heligoland, which the Nazis once built. There, Herzfeld finds Hannah and rescues her. Meanwhile, Sadler is able to hide and escapes unnoticed. Herzfeld takes Hannah and Ender to the hospital. There he finally meets Linda. Linda tells him she is packing her stuff to leave. Herzfeld tries to thank her, but she slaps him and tells him that was for making her do all the gross stuff. Linda tells her she is going to write a comic book on his situation. Herzfeld allows her and bids her farewell after hugging her. Before he flies back in a helicopter with Hannah and the corpses, the forensic doctor thanks Ingolf for his assistance. He asks Ingolf if he can drop him off this time in the helicopter, but Ingolf denies it and tells him he will leave in his new car. Before Ingolf bids him adieu, he tells Herzfeld not to worry about Eric because there is a manhunt going on for him on the entire island. Ingolf walks away as the group rides the helicopter. As they reach over the North Sea in the helicopter, a knife cuts through one of the body bags and it is revealed that it was Sadler hiding in the bag and attacks the group before Herzfeld manages to push him out of the helicopter. Sadler is clinging onto the helicopter with his fingers, which Herzfeld, after briefly hesitating, cuts off with a knife. The movie ends here. That's all for today. If you liked this video, then please like, share, and comment. Press the bell icon so you don't miss any updates, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Take care, and see you next time.